Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. This is the early look at the waiver wire. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. With me is the Welsh, and it's you hanging out here trying to get ahead of the game as we look to the waiver ads for the week. And I want to start by saying there's two guys on the waiver wire that should not be there anymore. I did a short form video about Jose Alvarado earlier in the week. He is still available in 40% of leagues. This guy had a massive strikeout performance in the spring. So far, he looks equally dominant. He's by far the best guy in this bullpen for the Phillies. And on top of that, Romano looks like he is dust. So please, for the love of God, add Jose Alvarado at this point. Also, Jordan Walker, we did a full breakdown last week. He is also rostered in about 60% of leagues. I think it's at least worth speculating. So if you want the full breakdown, go back and watch last week's video. But Jordan Walker, another guy from the St. Louis Cardinals, probably should be at least a bench guy at the very least, even in shallow leagues at this point. But we're going to go a little deeper than some of those names because you're saying, those guys are already rostered in my leagues. Yes, we hear you. Let's get to Casey Mize, who has started off our section of arms that we're going to talk about here because he had a great start this week against the Yankees. And Welsh, we talked about it on leading off. Hey, why don't you pick up Mize this week? He's got 2 starts. Add him for $1 or $2. If those starts are a disaster, you could drop him back to the waiver wire. But if that first one at least is good, all of a sudden you might have yourself a pitcher that could really be useful, at least in the spot starts or matchups. So what have you seen out of Mize this year and in the spring, which was good too, that makes you think that maybe this momentum can continue?
And potentially having the comments of, but this guy's already rostered in mine. Well, let's talk about him, though, because it's like 30-something% between Yahoo and ESPN is out there. I don't think he should be out there anymore. I think he is beyond streamer. We'll have to see how the whole season goes, but the split finger is back. And really with Casey Mize, it's always been about being able to set up with whether, last year it was a slider. This year he's calling it a slurve. It's interesting when you look at the pitch mix. Last year he was throwing the slider and then he had a knuckle curve. He has scrapped the knuckle curve and the slurve is taking up 25% of pitches thrown. Why that's important, because it's not getting big whiffs, is that has altered kind of the eye of batters. The batting average against the fastball right now is under 100, sub expected under 200. The slurve is just over 200, expected under 120, and the split finger literally doesn't have a batting average against and has a 72% whiff rate. So all that we're getting at here is like he has used these 2 other pitches to set up the split finger to be as devastating as ever been before. I think this pitch mix, which, that's 3 pitches of just about 80% usage, has a batting average of under 225. I think this is the good altered fixed version of Casey Mize that I believe can be more sustainable for the year. So I'm very high on Casey Mize right now, being not just someone you throw back out on the wire to pick up, whoever, some A's pitcher who might have a decent matchup, which you really shouldn't do that.
Well, Hayden Wesneski, also a guy who has 2 starts this week and might be lasting in that rotation a little longer, even if he does struggle, because right now Spencer Arrighetti is going to be out for quite some time with that broken thumb. So good start for Wesneski, another guy that you and I were high on when he was with the Cubs. Now he's getting an opportunity in Houston. The first start of this week was pretty solid in Welsh. We're looking right now at a guy who is rostered in roughly 40% of leagues or so on CBS. To me, as a streamer, spot starter, I think it's a guy worth picking up. What do you think of Wesneski?
Yeah, he could even push a little bit beyond it. Strikeout rates up 1% from last year. Walk rates down 1%. He's got a 3.75 ERA. Very early sample size, but his expected ERA is around 2, and he's just not giving up barrels. It's down around 3% right now. So, it's not getting big, crazy swing and miss stuff, but I'm into Wesneski of maybe even being slightly more than a streamer right now, but he is below Casey Mize to me.
Now, something we don't often recommend is a Colorado Rockies pitcher, but Chase Dollander is a special one. There's no doubt about that. I'm still very hesitant. Welsh and I've had this discussion on leading off before. I still don't feel good about starting him in Colorado, so that's 50% of those starts right now, but I do recognize the talent. He's also rostered in about 50% of leagues, give or take, right now currently. The problem is, I think you have to have the kind of roster where you have an need for starting pitching depth. Like you have all this offense and you really need to play those pitching matchups very carefully. But it's very difficult for me in a shallow league or even a 12-team league to really justify Chase Dollander. Anything more than 12, I totally understand. You want the depth, you want the arms, and we'll see how he performs outside of Colorado. His first start was in Colorado. It was solid, right? I think he battled. He gave you what you asked for. First starts are always tricky too, but what is the fantasy breakdown from this prospect who is now getting a chance to pitch in the big leagues.
Yeah, it's a great fastball. It's averaging 98. The worry is Colorado is going to suppress some of the stuff, the spin and everything like that. He gave up some homers, which was his problem, but the strikeouts were there. He was getting punchies. Cutter up around 90, had a 20% whiff rate. I really like that pitch, and he pairs it with this just like nasty curveball, which he threw about 20% of the time. He had a 37% whiff rate. I didn't mention the changeup, 50% whiff rate. So I think there's a lot of strikeouts in there. He's going to have to keep the ball on the ground. He didn't walk a bunch. So outside of Colorado, I'm really going to be interested in him. Maybe not against like big like Dodger lineups, but I want to keep him at the back end of my bench. Points leagues, I think he feels a little better. I just don't think he's going to be Kyle Freeland, where he's unusable at home and amazing on the road. I think Dollander has a real chance to buck the Rockies trend. But remember, he's a rookie, but he's a very talented rookie. And unfortunately, I am kind of suggesting people look at a Colorado Rockies pitcher, which I don't love.
I know, but he is talented. But we've seen a lot of talented pitchers, John Gray, some other guys just get eaten alive over the years in Colorado. But let's turn our attention to the bats, because probably the number one bat on at least my radar, and I think yours as well, is Ben Rice of the Yankees, first baseman there. Now, I saw Ben Rice play in person a bunch last year because I happen to live right next to the ballpark for the AA Yankees. And, those Somerset Patriots are a good time. Somerset Patriots! You know what I'm talking about. The crowd knows. So far off to a really good start. 2 homers. Only has 2 RBI off those, unfortunately. But 2 stolen bases, hitting .320. So if you need batting average, he can give you that. What I liked about Ben Rice is when I watched him, he took really good at-bats. And I thought that was going to serve him well. The ballpark at home at Yankee Stadium is a positive. So what are the positives for you when it comes to Ben Rice?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do you one further if you have him as like a bat you're really interested in. He's the number one bat. I would drop Jordan Walker for Ben Rice. I'm completely on Ben Rice right now. This is the guy. Now, it has maybe potential shades of like old school if you've been playing fantasy baseball for a long time. Like, remember Brandon Inge when he had this like absurd April and he's the number one player, blah, blah, blah. But Ben Rice, his Savant page is insane. I don't know if we'll have a graphic up on this, but it is top like 5 to 10 percentile in every single hitting category. He's not chasing. He's not really striking out to an aggressive degree. And we're talking XBA over 300. Barrel is 27%, short sample size. Hard hit, 72%. 3 homers, couple stolen bases. He came in clutch again as we were recording this today. He's leading off. The biggest, toughest thing about him is like, oh, this is a first baseman. They got Goldie, Bellinger in the outfield. What are they going to do? They're DHing him a bunch, and they're putting him in the leadoff spot. He is hitting to an absurd degree. I'm going to buy into this because it's a little baby ballpark in New York and there's extra offensive potential there. And if you do have him hitting high and you've got Judge behind him and you've got Jazz behind him, that's even more valuable. His bat is at a level that you have to take the risk on him. So he is my number one bat if he is available over Jordan Walker, over really whatever. I'll sacrifice stolen bases even to a Victor Scott because Ben Rice's bat really might be something special. Let's just hope it carries.
Yeah, certainly hoping for that. I think it will. I don't know. Don't expect him to be a 30 home run guy or anything like that. I don't want to get crazy, but I think he can get it for a good average, make good contact, has a little bit of pop. Again, the ballpark helps quite a bit. And right now the Ross percentage, it's up to 65 on CBS leagues, but it's lower in the Yahoo, it's lower in ESPN, it's lower in some of those shallow formats.
28% average between ESPN and Yahoo right now. As of today on FantasyPros, you can look up the player stats and you can see this aggregate ownership. That's low on Ben Rice. Yeah,
it's low in the aggregate, but in a lot of the paid leagues, obviously not so much. Now, Zac Veen got the call earlier this week. Also was on the waiver wire video on Monday for you to pick him up. That was before his debut was actually put out there. So again, this is why you subscribe to the channel. So you're ahead of the game, literally. But Veen, 46% rostered on CBS right now. He's got some power. He's got some speed. There's some swing and miss. He's a volatile, explosive player. He's fun. It's Colorado. Pick him up. Jake Mangum, also outfielder of the Tampa Bay Rays, rostered in about 25% of leagues over on CBS currently. Also getting off to a pretty good start here for Tampa. That ballpark a little bit more forgiving than the old ballpark was. And then Jacob Wilson of the Athletics at shortstop, also around 25-26% rostered currently. He's been very consistent for those Athletics, putting the bat on the ball. He's the son of a former major leaguer. So what are your thoughts here on Wilson and the A's?
Very high on Jacob Wilson.
Oops. Athletics. Apologies.
Well, no, you could be.
I got to put $1 in the jar.
No,
can I still call them the A's?
Yeah, they're the A's.
We still have to call them the Athletics.
No. You can still call them the A's. You just can't use the O. You can't use the big O for them. But Jacob Wilson,
Why start now?
I've talked a ton about. And like he started hitting more homers in spring, which was really fun. You worried that he was going to be like a Walmart or Walgreens version of Luis Arraez, but the power is starting to go because he doesn't walk a ton. He doesn't strike out. By the way, fun fact, Dollander actually got him on a strikeout. He's striking out 4% of the time this year. He's barreling a little bit. He needs to get the ball in the air, but he makes contact like crazy. He has an XBA of 365, which is top 2 percentile of the league. And he has a couple homers. Why is that important? Because that, again, little baby minor league ballpark that the A's are playing in, summer hasn't even started up. And I believe he started the year like 12 hits in 12 straight games. Like he's going ballistic. He makes a ton of contact. He's going to hit in decent spots with an A's lineup that's kind of sneaky. I don't know. He's not a 10-team guy. I think he might be a 12-team guy. He's a great points league player. I just think you need to pay attention because if Jacob Wilson ends up throwing in 12 to 15 homers, maybe a handful of stolen bases, runs could be up there, and he's a huge boon to batting average. So Jacob Wilson is a nice sneaky get when you're struggling with your middle infield help right now, which I know plenty of us are.
All right, here's a guy we're going to debate right now. It's Kyren Paris of the Los Angeles Angels. He's rostered in about 48% of leagues currently on CBS, and I feel like every single April there's a mirage player. And to me, it's Paris. I know he's made some adjustments, and I know currently he's getting playing time, but Zach Neto's on his way back. I know he can play the outfield too, so maybe he'll find his way there. But I'm concerned about playing time once Neto's healthy, because Rengifo's not going anywhere, Neto's not going anywhere, Trout's obviously not going anywhere, neither is Ward. So we're going to have to find some spots for him to play. Maybe they can do rotations. I don't know. But my bigger problem with Paris is that if you look over 300 plus minor league games, he's a career 237 hitter. He's got a slugging percentage under 400. He's a very underwhelming player, despite the fact that he's got speed and athleticism. I get the speed and athleticism a thing. We've seen a player like Whit Merrifield years ago who completely turned around his minor league profile with some adjustments and became a really good fantasy player for a while. So that's the downside of Kyren Paris. I'm putting it out there. He's an avoid. I think he's an illusion. But Welsh, why are you on the other side of this debate?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching him since rookie ball out here in Arizona. I've seen him since day one, and I've been kind of underwhelmed kind of across the board. But he went this offseason. He worked with, I believe it was the hitting coach that was able to retransform Aaron Judge's swing. And you're starting to see some of that materialize. So you don't want to throw out previous data, but also you've had a massive swing change, which what has that resulted in? 3 homers, 4 stolen bases, a 429 average, 20% barrel rate, 60% hard hit rate. He's striking out less. His XBA supports it. And guess what? Ball is in the air more than it's ever been at 16-degree launch angle. So my counter to that is Zach Neto has nothing to do with Kyren because Zach will be the shortstop. Luis Rengifo, they've been playing at third, but you do have a problem where they got Moncada and Tim Anderson, and there's plenty of guys that are around there. But if you're hitting and you're playing super well, they're not going to get him off the field. The problem is his leash might be smaller than a lot of players, but I would rather bet on Kyren Paris right now because he's so cheap. It was, I believe, like under 10% on FantasyPros. It's under 50% on CBS. I think he's worth the battle right now. But to your point, there are a lot of middle infielders that could be vying for a short amount of spots. Maybe Tim Anderson they throw in the outfield. Maybe they just cut him. Why do you have him there? But Kyren made big changes in the offseason. It's materializing, so I'm willing to make that investment. And I would probably pick him over Jacob Wilson right now for the big impact. Okay. But I wouldn't be shocked when Jacob Wilson is like on the team and Kyren is back in Salt Lake, I think it is.
Counter to the counter to close the argument. He's done it against the St. Louis Cardinals, the worst pitching staff in baseball, ERA-wise. The Chicago White Sox, not far behind.
Not
the Cleveland Guardians, who have gotten off to a terrible start. So, again, opponents matter too. Yeah. But we'll let you decide. Welsh, let's get out of here. Before we do, 2 quick, and I mean quick, guys to add from the prospect wells you might want to stash right now.
Number 1, Nick Kurtz, number 1 bat. I am trying to get 5 homers over 400 average. He's going ballistic. Just find a spot for him, and he's in AAA, unlike Bazana or Caglione. The pitcher, Bubba Chandler. Bubba Chandler's second start pushed his innings up to 60. He was phenomenal. 8 strikeouts. A couple walks. He got 4. They're going to push him to 70, maybe 75. I think 3 starts from now, Bubba Chandler could be up in the majors. So you're going to want to get ahead of it. Go and pick up Nick Kurtz and go and pick up Bubba Chandler. Do it.
Yeah. And go and leave a comment behind because somebody's going to win a Nico Horner jersey signed by Nico Horner from our good friends at pristineauction.com. All you have to do to be eligible is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros MLB channel. Drop your comments below and ring the bell till it goes ding so you never miss a piece of content here at Fantasy Pros MLB, and we can let you know if you're the big winner. So win that Nico Horner jersey and win some of these players on your waiver wire. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.